When Oprah Winfrey stepped onto the stage of Kathy Griffin's talk show, no one could have predicted that this evening would become one of the most talked about moments in television history. The studio, bathed in the glare of spotlights and the hum of cameras, erupted in applause as the legendary media icon appeared in her signature elegant ivory dress. She had come to promote her new documentary about the fight for women's rights, but what happened next shocked everyone. The atmosphere, initially warm and welcoming, quickly shifted when Kathy Griffin, known for her sharp tongue and provocative style, decided to cross a line. Kathy Griffin's show, Griffin's Hot Seat, was renowned for its unpredictability. Located in the heart of New York, the studio boasted a modern design, glossy black floors, vibrant red guest chairs, and a massive screen in the background displaying the audience's reactions. The live crowd of about 200 people buzzed with anticipation, clutching their phones, ready to capture every moment. Co-hosts, comedian Andy Cohen and actress Sarah Silverman, sat beside Griffin, smiling but with a hint of tension in their eyes. Producers and headsets scurried backstage, while camera operators adjusted their lenses to miss nothing. Oprah entered confidently, her smile genuine yet measured. She greeted the audience with a light wave, and the room exploded in applause. Kathy Griffin, dressed in a vivid green dress, stood to hug her guests, but her eyes glinted with mischief. "Oh, Oprah, the queen of television gracing us mere mortals," Griffin quipped, and the audience laughed. But beneath the humor lurked a spark that promised a storm. The interview started lightly. Oprah spoke about her documentary, which explored the struggles of women for equality worldwide. Her voice was calm but filled with passion as she described the stories of women who overcame incredible hardships. The audience listened, spellbound, and Andy Cohen nodded enthusiastically, adding, "This is so important, Oprah, thank you for highlighting these issues." Sarah Silverman joked about how Oprah makes everyone cry, even when she's just talking about the weather, eliciting laughter from the crowd. But Kathy Griffin, sitting with a barely concealed smirk, was clearly waiting for her moment. She interrupted Oprah as she spoke about one of the documentary's heroines. "Listen, Oprah, this all sounds very noble," Griffin said, leaning forward. "But let's be real, you live in $100 million mansion. How can you talk about the struggles of ordinary women when your biggest problem is choosing between a private jet and a yacht?" The room fell silent. A few gasps echoed, and some audience members exchanged glances. The camera quickly panned to Oprah, whose smile faded slightly, but she maintained her composure. "Kathy, I understand where that question comes from," she replied, her voice steady but firm. "My work is about giving a voice to those who don't have one. My success doesn't diminish their struggles, it gives me a platform to amplify them." Griffin, however, didn't back down. Her eyes narrowed, and her tone sharpened. "Oh, come on, Oprah," she said, leaning back in her chair. "You're selling this voice for the voiceless story, but isn't it just a brand? You're not risking anything. You sit in your perfect studio, make perfect shows, and then go home to your perfect mansion. That's not activism, that's PR." The audience gasped again, but this time, a few scattered claps rang out. Some supported Griffin's boldness. Andy Cohen offered an awkward smile, muttering, "Come on, Kathy, maybe not so harsh." Sarah Silverman tried to defuse the tension with a joke. "I thought we were here to talk about the documentary, not who's got how many yachts." But her laugh sounded forced, and the audience didn't bite. Oprah clasped her hands on her lap, her face still calm but her eyes gleaming. "Kathy, I don't claim to live the lives of these women," she said, her voice quiet but piercing. "But I know what struggle is. I grew up in poverty, in violence, in a world that gave me no chances. I'm not just selling stories, I live to tell them." Griffin rolled her eyes, a move caught by the cameras. "Oh, sure, the Cinderella story, we've all heard it," she said sarcastically. "But tell me, Oprah, when was the last time you risked your reputation? You avoid tough topics if they might upset your Hollywood or political friends. That's not activism, that's selective storytelling." The room buzzed with whispers and exclamations. A woman in the front row covered her mouth, while a man nearby began recording on his phone. A producer backstage waved frantically, signaling the operators to keep the cameras on Oprah and Griffin. The tension in the studio was palpable, as if the air had grown heavy. Oprah took a deep breath, her gaze sharpening. "Kathy, I don't choose topics based on what's convenient," she said, her voice trembling with restrained emotion. "I speak about what I believe in. My documentary isn't about me, it's about women who fight for survival every day. If you think that's PR, then you haven't been listening." Sensing she was losing control, Griffin went all in. "Oh, I've been listening, Oprah. But let's talk about what you don't talk about. Like your celebrity friends caught in scandals. You never call them out, do you? You avoid the dirt because it might tarnish your perfect image. That's hypocrisy, Oprah, and everyone sees it." The words hit like lightning. The audience fell silent, with only the click of cameras breaking the stillness. Andy Cohen tried to intervene. "Okay, let's get back to the documentary, that's the main topic, right?" But his voice was drowned out by the tension. Sarah Silverman pursed her lips, clearly at a loss for words. Oprah, however, didn't break eye contact with Griffin. Her face remained calm, but her fists clenched so tightly her knuckles whitened. "Kathy," Oprah said slowly, her voice low and piercing, "you accuse me of hypocrisy, but aren't you the one creating drama for ratings? You want me to lose control so your show goes viral. But I don't play those games." The room erupted in applause, but Griffin wasn't done. "Oh, please, Oprah, don't act like a saint," she said, her voice rising. "You use your platform to look flawless, but you never take risks. You could talk about real issues, corruption, scandals, injustice, but you choose safe topics that sell." The tension reached its peak. Oprah stood from her chair, her movements slow but deliberate. The cameras zoomed in, capturing every gesture. The audience hushed, sensing something monumental was coming. Producers backstage exchanged panicked glances, one whispering into a walkie-talkie, "Get security ready, this could get out of hand." Oprah turned to Griffin, her eyes blazing. "Kathy, I've spent my life fighting for people to hear the truth," she said, her voice trembling with strength. "I don't choose safe topics. I choose topics that matter. And if you think you can belittle me or my work for a few clicks, you're mistaken." The audience erupted in applause, but Griffin tried to get the last word. "Oh, Oprah, that's cute, but you're dodging my point. You're not who you pretend to be, and I'm not afraid to say it." Oprah paused, her hand trembling slightly. She turned to the audience, her gaze direct and open. "I came here to talk about women who deserve to be heard," she said, her voice rising. "But if this show is about tearing people down for entertainment, I don't want to be part of it." She turned and walked toward the exit, her heels clicking against the glossy floor. The studio fell into stunned silence, with only a few audience members clapping while others recorded the moment. Griffin, visibly rattled, tried to say something, but her voice was lost in the crowd's murmur. As Oprah disappeared backstage, Andy Cohen and Sarah Silverman exchanged glances, unsure how to continue the show. Producers frantically signaled for a commercial break, but the moment had already been captured by dozens of phones in the audience. This conflict, this tension, these words from Oprah Winfrey went viral before the show even ended. This moment entered television history, sparking a wave of discussions on social media. Some accused Griffin of crossing a line, while others felt she was right to challenge Oprah's selectivity. Clips from the show spread like wildfire, with the hashtag Oprah vs. Griffin trending at #1. The reputations of both women were under scrutiny, but the key question remained, did Oprah do the right thing by walking out? Was Griffin justified in her questions? Who was right in this conflict? Share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to stay updated on this story. As Oprah Winfrey vanished backstage, her footsteps still echoing in the audience's memory, the Griffin's hot seat studio plunged into chaotic silence. The bright spotlight seemed to intensify, illuminating Kathy Griffin's stunned face as she clung to the edge of the desk, trying to regain control. The audience was divided. Some clapped and shouted support for Oprah, while others whispered, clearly shocked by Griffin's audacity. Andy Cohen, one of the co-hosts, coughed awkwardly, and Sarah Silverman, usually irrepressible, sat silently, her eyes darting between Griffin and the empty guest chair. Producers backstage exchanged frantic signals. A young man in a black baseball cap whispered into a walkie-talkie. "Go to commercial, now! This is spiraling!" Camera operators, still focused on Griffin, hurriedly panned to the audience, where dozens of people were already posting videos online. The hum of cameras mixed with the clicking of phones, creating a surreal soundtrack to this television disaster. Kathy Griffin, sensing she was losing her grip, stood abruptly, her bright green dress flashing under the lights. All right, people, calm down," she said, raising her hands like a conductor before an orchestra. Her voice cracked slightly, but she tried to maintain her trademark bravado. "This is a talk show, we're here for honesty, right? Oprah let's say she wasn't ready for a real conversation." The audience's response was mixed. A few laughed, supporting her, but most looked on with skepticism. A woman in the third row, holding her phone, shouted, "That was too much, Kathy!" Her words were drowned out by the buzz, but Griffin heard them. Her smile tightened, and she quickly turned to Andy Cohen. "Andy, say something, you're the diplomacy expert," she quipped, but her tone betrayed irritation. Andy Cohen, visibly uncomfortable, adjusted his tie and tried to defuse the situation. "Well, this show's always been about sharp edges, but maybe we went a bit too far?" he said, choosing his words carefully. The audience laughed, but it was a nervous laugh. Sarah Silverman, finally snapping out of her daze, chimed in. "I'm just glad I didn't ask that question, Kathy. You're officially the drama queen now." The joke got a few chuckles, but the tension lingered. Meanwhile, backstage, Oprah stood in a narrow corridor, surrounded by her team. Her manager, a slim woman in a sharp suit, was frantically typing on her phone, whispering, "It's already on Twitter, Oprah. The hashtag Oprah walks out is blowing up." Oprah, still composed, took a deep breath. Her face was calm, but her eyes shimmered with restrained emotion. "I won't let them turn this into a circus," she said quietly but firmly. Her assistant, holding a tablet, showed her the first headlines. "Oprah storms off Griffin show after scandal," and "Kathy Griffin vs. Oprah, who's right?" A security guard escorting Oprah to the elevator asked, "Do you want to go back and say something?" Oprah shook her head. "I said what needed to be said," she replied, her voice steady but resolute. "This isn't about me. It's about the women whose stories I promised to tell." She stepped into the elevator, and the doors closed, leaving behind a silence broken only by the distant hum of the studio. On stage, Kathy Griffin tried to steer the show back on track. "Okay, people, let's talk about something fun. Who watched the last season of The Bachelor?" she said, but her voice sounded unnatural. The audience responded tepidly, and even her signature sarcasm couldn't hide that the Oprah moment had defined the night. Andy Cohen tried to support her, asking about Griffin's new project, but she was visibly rattled. "Look, I didn't mean to offend anyone," she said suddenly, looking straight into the camera. "But if you come on my show, be ready for real questions. I don't play softball." Her words sparked a new wave of reactions. Some in the audience clapped, supporting her boldness, but others booed in disapproval. A man in the back shouted, "That wasn't a question, it was a takedown." Griffin spun toward him, but a producer signaled for a commercial break, and the screen cut to black, leaving the audience in tense anticipation. While the show went to break, social media was already ablaze. Clips of Oprah's exit spread like wildfire. Twitter users split into two camps. Some called Griffin a truth-teller for daring to challenge an icon, while others accused her of cruelty and unprofessionalism. Hashtags Oprah walks out and hashtag Kathy vs. Oprah dominated the trends. One popular tweet read, "Oprah showed class walking out of that mess. Griffin's just chasing clout." Another defended the host. "Kathy said what everyone's thinking. Oprah's not a saint, and she can be questioned." The media pounced on the story. TMZ published an article titled, "Oprah vs. Griffin, the scandal that rocked TV." while BuzzFeed released a listicle. 10 reasons why Oprah's walkout was iconic. Even serious outlets like the New York Times began analyzing the conflict, raising questions about the line between criticism and humiliation on television. After the break, Andy Cohen and Sarah Silverman tried to return the show to a lighter tone, but the shadow of the conflict loomed large. Andy, known for his diplomacy, said, "Look, we all love Oprah, and we love Kathy for her boldness. Let's just move on, okay?" But his words rang hollow. Sarah Silverman, unable to resist, added, "I just want to say, I wouldn't dare go up against Oprah. That woman can destroy you with a smile." The audience laughed, but it was a nervous laugh, and even Sarah looked like she regretted her quip. Griffin, sensing she was losing the crowd, tried to win them back. "Listen, I'm not Oprah's enemy," she said, staring into the camera. "I just want honest conversations. If you come on my show, be ready for it." But her words didn't have the impact she hoped for. The audience responded tepidly, and producers backstage were already preparing for crisis management. The conflict on Griffin's hot seat became not just a television moment, but a cultural phenomenon. Kathy Griffin's reputation took a hit. Some praised her courage, while others accused her of crossing the line of respect. Oprah, meanwhile, garnered a wave of support, but some critics began asking whether she indeed avoids tough topics, as Griffin claimed. Her walkout became a symbol of dignity, but also sparked debates about whether she should have stayed to continue the discussion. This moment prompted reflection on the boundaries between criticism and humiliation, the role of media in society, and how celebrities use their platforms. Who was right in this conflict? Oprah, defending her mission, or Griffin, demanding honesty? Did Oprah do the right thing by walking out, or should she have stayed to fight back? And most importantly, can television remain a space for genuine dialogue, or is it doomed to be an arena for drama? Share your thoughts in the comments. Would you have supported Oprah or Kathy in this situation? Subscribe to stay updated on news stories and find out how this conflict will reshape television.